And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
The idea of submarine combat is very interesting and unique, and there's a lot of very complicated games about it. This is not one of those games. Steam Torpedo is a game which takes place in 1924, and the First World War is still going on, and apparently there's sharks and corrosive starfish and all sorts of nonsense going on. And it's a two-player game here in which you kind of have two submarines in a table, not on a map, just they're going to be moving in position to each other, trying to maneuver around each other and fight one another off by moving different people and activating your own custom-built submarine. Let me show you. Okay, each player is going to have a submarine that's made up of 10 tiles. Now, I have the submarine for my opponent here facing towards you, but they'd actually be facing for them. These would be the front of your submarines and the rear, and then you have the different sides of the submarine. And they're basically facing each other, although it's possible that the submarines can switch spots, and so I can shoot from this side to him. So you kind of have this relative position here, where these two submarines are here, and so a submarine might move in front of the other submarine, or it might move up here. You know, they could actually be this far apart, or they can move on the different sides of each other. Now, each submarine has a control room that's here in the middle, and then you're going to have other rooms. Now, the game comes with two complete submarines. These are the ones you see here, and these are the different tiles that go into submarines, although you can mix and match, and the rulebook doesn't actually give you a ton of different ways to do it, but I would do a drafting session to pick them, and then of course if you get some expansions you have more choices. You're going to start with some crew members and a captain in yours, and you'll notice that many of the different rooms here, this is how many structure points they have before this room is destroyed, but this one has blue that gives oxygen. So some of the rooms give oxygen, and you need oxygen because if you run out of oxygen you will lose. The goal of this game is to kill all the crew of your opponent, which is pretty hard to do. You'd have to blow up all the sections that they're in, blow up their control room, or run out of oxygen, or have them run out of oxygen. So the first thing you'll do is you'll pick one oxygen counter that you have on your turn and get rid of it. You're running out of oxygen. Your crew is breathing. Then you'll flip all your crew members face up. When they've been used, they turn face down. And then you have an action phase. You can maneuver. So basically, each manned engine tile. So you look around and your ship has different tiles. The yellow and the black ones are the engine tiles. So since I only have one person, I have people in this engine tile, but no one in this one, I can move one. So I might move here in front of the other submarine because I want to attack them from the rear or something. Then I can trigger events. If my crew members are in a spot that can be triggered, and each of these spots has different trigger moments on them, I could use that crew member to utilize that. The crew member then must move one space closer back to the control room. If I can't do that, I can just move my crew. So maybe I move my crew like this turn. The difference being I can move my captain and use him. Or I can use him and then move him. So let's say I go here. I use the captain, which automatically moves him back. And this lets me shoot a ship that's in close range. Of course, I would have moved behind him to do this. Now, let's take a look at some of these tiles in more detail. There are ones that let you attack your opponent. Like, for example, here, this radio-controlled shark. You'll notice that I can attack my opponent. I'm the little black submarine, and I can attack him on either side or if I'm behind him. So I can hit him in one of the side tiles, or I can hit him in the rear 4 tiles. And it's going to do 2 damage to him. If I have 2 people in this compartment, I could do it twice and double the damage and do 4 damage. Here's another weapon up here. This anti-propeller chain. That will only do 1 damage, but it reduces the speed of your opponent's submarine by 1. Over here you see there's mines. There are 3, but I can only drop them out the rear, and you'll notice this also has a 1, which means I can only do that 1 time. Not everything is a weapon, but there are plenty of weapons, and when you do attack your opponent, you will look let's say my ship was attacked on this side here, coming in. Well, I would look at these green ones. These are armor, and I have 2 armor on this side, so I would subtract 2 from my opponent's attack. But let's say they hit me with a 4 attack. I would have to take 2 damage. So I would have to pick one of these compartments to take 2 damage. Or I can take 1 damage to my main control room. The problem with doing that to your main control room is if you do that too often, you'll die. Now, even if I got like 6 damage, I would only take 1 to the main control room. You have that if your main control room gets blown up. Otherwise, I take 2 damage. So I'd say, all right, I'll take 2 damage here. It kills 2 of my oxygen. I flip it over. If I took another damage to that room for whatever reason, it would then blow up that room. And if there's a crew person in it, that crew person would die. And you can see that that room would no longer be useful to me. So let's look at some more tiles here. Up here in the enemy submarine. Actually, this is a submarine I like. You see that there's some suction mines. Those things are great, but you have to drop them out the back, and they do 3 damage. They're very similar to the other mines. Here we have shrapnel bombs, where I can hit on both sides. This is also a basically an engine tile, and so it's kind of interesting when you're building your sub because you're looking and saying, "Ooh, this is an engine tile, and it's something I can attack from here, and it's something I can double down on," which is pretty neat. So I want to have that one in here. And down here, this nitroseismic missile, you'll notice that there's double arrows here. That means it hits in long range. So you have to be more than 1 space away. But it does an extra damage when this component attacks for each damage token on this compartment. So if this thing gets hit, I can do more damage to my opponents. Or maybe over here I have the Big Martha, which is just 3 damage, but you have to be directly behind the enemy ship. Or this auxiliary engine, which I can, if I have a guy in here, I can move my submarine 1 or 2 sectors in addition to my maneuver. So there's all different things that you can do. Some things will give you good armor, like the sandbags. The armor value of this compartment is equal to the number of sailors manning it. So if I have 4 sailors in, I'll have 4 armor in the front and on that side. All the way back down here, I got a special thing here, the crates of corrosive starfish, because that's something people carry around. I can take a damage token from this compartment to do a damage to any damaged compartment. The spot here that got blown up has a telescopic shaft where I can shoot one of my people onto the other ship where he can run around and stop them from using the different things that they have. I have a radio scrambler over here which lets me move any opponent's exhausted sailor to a compartment adjacent to him that still has structure points. So there's like a lot of neat things, and each of these ships is very different. Like this ship here has more oxygen. This ship over here has better armor, or at least has better guns, and it has more maneuverability. And of course you can mix and match these, and games won't take very long because you're going to go back and forth, and eventually stuff's going to start blowing up. You can't run and hide from your opponent forever, and eventually one player is going to win, again, by blowing this up, killing the crew, or the other person running out of oxygen. Now, I really enjoy how in this game, the starting submarines, they show you how to build them and the exact order to put them. But for me, the most fun part of this is building your own submarines. What we do is we flip over like 3 tiles, and then you draw one, and then we flip over another one, and I draw one, and we go back and forth till we build our own sub. And you guys sit there and think, okay, I need to get movement, I need to get armor, I need to get some good weapons. But there's enough of that to go around, and it gives you a lot of variety in how you build these. Now, this will come more into the effect when we use the expansions, and I will be putting up some reviews of the expansions today too, so you can see the expansion that's out and the next one that's coming. And I think that adds more to the variety, but even just as a base game, this is very entertaining. Man, it's a nice looking box too. This is cool. Don't let this game get you by, pass you by. I enjoyed the back and forth. At first I was like, man, it's oxygen thing, but that's like a timer on the game. You can't go forever. You can't just swim by each other. Eventually one person's going to run out of oxygen, and the person who has less oxygen is going to need to get in there and attack and make sure something happens. Neat. The artwork is good. The icons. Now, some of the icons will let you attack or activate a unit on the other person's turn. Not so convinced on the timing there. The rulebook could have been better written too. Like I said, there could have been more things in there about how to pick who gets what on the submarines, like the drafting thing I just mentioned. That's pretty obvious. I'm surprised it wasn't there. And it took me a little bit to figure out exactly how the ships moved. Other than that, it was very easy to understand, I thought. And once we got it going, man, it just flows so smoothly. You move your guys. Whenever you use stuff, they kind of gravitate back to the control room, so you got to push them back out. you want to use that stuff on the very outer part of your submarine, but it's going to take you a couple turns to get there and use it. So some neat, nifty mechanisms, and I think a lot of replayability. I recommend this one, Steam Torpedo. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!
There.